Wisdom let us attend, let us hear the Holy Gospel. Peace be to all.
And to thy spirit.
Readings from the Holy Gospel according to St. Luke.
Glory to thee, O Lord, glory to thee.
Let us attend. At that time, a lawyer stood up to put Jesus to the test, saying, Teacher, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? Jesus said to him, What is written in the law? How do you read? And the lawyer answered, You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. And Jesus said to him, You have answered right. Do this, and you will live. But the lawyer, desiring to justify himself, said to Jesus, And who is my neighbor? Jesus replied, A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he fell among robbers who stripped him and beat him, and departed, leaving him half dead. Now by chance the priest was going down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. So likewise a Levite, when he came to the place, saw him and passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he journeyed, came where he was. And when he saw him, he had compassion and went to him and bound up his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he set him on his own beast and brought him to an inn and took care of him. And the next day he took out 2 denarii and gave him to the innkeeper, saying, Take care of him, and whatever more you spend, I will repay you when I come back. Which of these 3 do you think proved neighbor to the man who fell among robbers? The lawyer said, The one who showed mercy on him. Jesus said to him, Go and do likewise.
Glory to thee, O Lord, glory to thee.
Glory to Jesus Christ.
Glory to him forever.
So today we have a familiar parable. You thought I was going to start with a lawyer joke, but I'm not. I'm too self-interested. We have a familiar parable. And the way this parable is usually preached is, we go down the road in our lives and we see people laying there and they're hurt, and we're supposed to be the neighbor to them and pick them up. And that's good. And that we are. They're there, they're hurt, whether they have suffered a physical ailment or injury or a moral lapse, or they've been driven out of society, or they're considered a pariah, or they don't have any money, or whatever it is, wherever they're laying there beaten up and half dead by the road, our task is to go to them and pick them up and minister to them. And we know that's true because Jesus said, Inasmuch as you have done that to the least of these, you've done it to me. As Mother Teresa of blessed memory, I think I can say that, of blessed memory has said, the lepers in India, she was not Christ to them, they were Christ to her. She received grace by ministering to them. So in the same way, we receive grace by ministering to those around us. But that's a different parable. That's the parable of the sheep and goats. This is the parable of the Good Samaritan. This parable is actually the other way around. The ones laying beside the road, beat up and half dead, that's us. We are the ones beat up and half dead. The neighbor, love your neighbor as yourself. The Samaritan was the neighbor. The guy on the road isn't the neighbor. The Samaritan's the neighbor. Interesting. Samaritans in that culture were outcasts. They were considered dogs by the Jews. So here we have a Jewish guy leaving Jerusalem, up in the mountains, the heights of Jewish worship, and going down to Jericho, which was by the Dead Sea. In the middle of the desert, where there was no life, there was no hope of anything good happening to him, he got set upon by robbers, beat up, and almost killed, and left for dead. A priest comes by. A priest who knew that the law was, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself, and knew that this Jewish guy who had just was heading down to Jericho, had been beaten up and was half dead. He knew the law, and he still walked around him and kept going. The Levite came along. The Levite was not only versed in the law, he was also versed in worship. That's what the Levites did. They tended to worship in the temple. They knew the law too, and he walked around and kept going. Oh, gee, buddy. Hope you don't die. See you later, I'm busy. It's also true that if the priest of the Levite had actually touched this guy, they would have become ritually unclean. They were heading to Jerusalem to do their act of worship. Even for their own brother who was going to die if they didn't stop and help, for all they knew. They couldn't stop and make themselves dirty with the stains of the world. I'm not picking on priests and Levites. I am a priest. Hopefully I do better. And then along comes a Samaritan, a dog. Jews didn't speak to Samaritans, they didn't associate with Samaritans, they didn't touch Samaritans, they didn't eat with Samaritans. If you got near a Samaritan, you were unclean. The Samaritans weren't, well, what were they? The Samaritans were syncretists. They believed in some of the books of what the Jews would consider the Pentateuch, but not others. And they had blended the Jewish religion with some elements of Greek and Syrophoenician religion. And they were considered to be impure, religiously impure. They were those people. We don't talk to those people. That's why it was such a scandal when Jesus was sat down at the well at Sychar and the Samaritan woman came out and Jesus talked to her. Oh my gosh. So the Jewish man is laying there helpless beside the road, and the only one he gets help from is a dog. Kind of like last week. Remember the poor man outside Lazarus' gate? The only one that helped him was the dogs. They at least licked out his wounds. And the rich guy, the priest, the Levite, stepped over and kept going. Too busy, too preoccupied, too self-focused to do the work of God. Now, why do I say that we are the guy who's beat up beside the road? Well, partly because that's what all the church fathers say. This is not about some guy out there. This is about us. And it's very clear from the commentaries and from Scripture itself. Remember, Jesus had just been called a Samaritan with a man with a devil. You really are a Samaritan and you have a devil. Jesus is talking about himself. He is the Samaritan. He is the one who was cast out of Jewish society. Remember, at his crucifixion, he was crucified by the Jews for blasphemy and by the Romans for treason. He was outside the pale. He had no people. It says in Isaiah, he had no body. And he was the one that had compassion on us. When we, heading, as we do sometimes, away from God, trapped up in the trappings of sin, get beat up by the demons. The robbers are the demons, those who seek our death and destruction. We talked last week a little bit, we talked a few weeks ago about the demons that were in the man named Legion. And they went into the pigs and they killed all the pigs. Because demons kill things. Demons kill pigs, demons kill people. Only by the grace of God do we remain alive. Demons beat us up. They want us dead. So they give us reasons to go away from God's presence, away from Jerusalem, down toward the Dead Sea. What's that a picture of? Well, dead. And the guy got beat up and he's later half dead. And here comes the Samaritan. Here comes the outcast. Here comes the only guy who will give him the time of day. Now, how else do I know that this is about Jesus? Well, Ephesians 2, we heard right before I read the gospel. But God, who is rich in mercy, not just grudgingly merciful. He doesn't just decide not to punish us because whatever. He is abounding. He's rich. He overflows in mercy because of his, not just love, but his great love. God didn't just kind of, love us because we're his kids and you got to love your kid, right? He had great love for us. Even when we were dead in our trespasses, we're the guy beside the road and we're dead in sin. if we don't know that we're dead in sin without the grace of God, if we think that we are alive because of something in us, sorry. It is by grace you have been saved through faith. And even our faith is not of ourselves. It is the gift of God, not of works, lest anyone should boast. Folks, we are, yes, called to exercise ourselves and our will and to blend our faith with God's grace. But even the ability to have faith, even the faith we have, is grace. It is from grace, through grace, to grace, that we are saved. We are not saved by works. We're not saved by actions. We are saved by grace. It is God who calls us. Jesus saves us. We do not save ourselves. We cannot save ourselves, folks. We're laying beside the road half dead. And the sooner we realize that about ourselves, the sooner we can receive the great love of God. If our hearts are not filled with love of God, maybe it's because I think it's already full of something else. And if I think the tank is full, I'm not going to take off the cover to let somebody fill it up, right? If you go to the gas station and your tank is full, you don't pop the little lid. It's full. Well, if your gas gauge, watch him pulling in those tassels. I just wanted him to pull that over himself. You know, if your gas gauge is broken, yeah, you know, it's always on full. You pull up to the gas station, it's on full. Well, now you know better. It's broken. Why? Because once beside the road, you found out that full don't mean full no more. Full means the gas gauge is broken. I got to fill it up every time I pass the gas station. I got to watch the odometer. Everybody ever been there? So maybe we think our tank is full of something, but if it's not abounding with the love of God, then maybe our gas gauge is broken. Maybe we need to have our gas gauge serviced so that we can see what's really in our hearts. Because it's easy to deceive ourselves and to be the whitewashed sepulchres, I'm speaking for myself here, that are full of dead men's bones and rot. It's easy for me to do that. I can deceive myself. I do it all day long. It's very straightforward. All I have to do is not believe what's in here and believe what's in here. And instead, I need to put what's in here, so that it gets down to here, and I know how empty I am but for the grace of God, so that I can open my heart to the grace of God, and then God, who is rich in mercy. This is not, folks, a message of condemnation. This is a message of hope. This is a message of joy. This is a message of love. God, who is rich in mercy, who abounds to us, who flows to us like an inexorable stream, because of his great love wherewith he loved us. There is no love greater. There is nothing greater. The greatest force in the universe is the love of God. But we can close ourselves to it if we want to, because it's love, and love doesn't impose. Love offers. We have to receive. So today, as we ponder, as we think, hopefully we'll ponder and think. I've been pondering and thinking. Let's get our gas gauge calibrated and realize that but for the grace of God, my tank is empty. And then let's cry out to him that he, who is rich in mercy, in his great love for us, would stop beside the road and pick us up and take us to the inn. The inn. The Samaritan took the poor beat-up guy to the inn. Where's the inn? Well, the innkeeper, all the commentaries say, is the bishops and hierarchs of the church. Folks, you're in the inn. This is the inn. This is the place to come and get healed. This is the place to come and receive, not the only place you can receive the grace of God, but the place where the grace of God is in its purest and most undiluted form. The place where the love of God blazes forth. We're about to receive the Eucharist. The love of God is going to drop into our mouths. We're going to swallow. If our tank is full, it won't do us any good. But if our tank is empty, if we know it, and it is, all of us, our tank is empty. My tank is empty. I need the Eucharist today because my tank is empty. If we know our tank is empty and we open the fill valve, then the love and the grace and the mercy of God can fall in and fill us up. Glory to Jesus Christ.
Glory to him forever.
Again and again. Let us pray to the Lord.